booth watching the whole thing, and I turn on him and I ask, why were you rubbing up and down on me like that? Shut up! I think you were rubbing up and down on me like that because I've complained about how I was treated because all I did was call a counseling line after having a few beers. Shut up! And then that guy grabs me, and then there's another space between that room I was in with the booth and the two chicks who were sitting there, and then it's a darkened room, and this guy wrenches my arm back and thrusts me back and says, you shut the fuck up. And then there's another room, and then there's a bench on there, and in the corner of this corridor, I'm put on a bench and cuffed to it. The sergeant comes over and says, I just have to stay cuffed to it, and this is just the way it is. And I told him what they did to me, and he said, prove it. About 20 minutes later, I need to take a piss, and the bathroom is right across from me. That deputy who had been in the booth watching this happen comes out, and he's taking another woman into that bathroom or doing something with her. And so all I do, cuffed to the bench, they know I'm cuffed to the bench, I stand up and say, excuse me, officer. He charges towards me and scares the crap out of me. I literally cower down into the corner and scream out crying. And the deputies just over there didn't do a damn thing. And I finally say, could you call someone for me to talk to? And so they bring in the officer who arrested me, Don Hanson. Officer Don Hanson, Austin Police Department. And she sits down with me on the booth, and I tell her what they did. And do you know what she says to me? It's not illegal to be mean to people. Don't trust Austin Police Officer Don Hanson. So I get my mugshot, and as I'm standing to get my mugshot taken, I'm thinking I'm going to take, just make the best of this that I can. I begin to smile, and the dude who's taking it barks back, don't smile! And so fine, I'm just going to take this and move on. As I'm leaving, I tell the person at the desk, you treat people terribly, and there's some other passive threat to take me back to jail, just bullies. This is Travis County law enforcement with the help of Austin Police Department covering it up. My sister picks me up, takes me back to my apartment, and I am wigging out about what I had been through. She calls my counselor who I had been talking to. That counselor figures that I am really wigging out. The police are called again, and another Austin Police Department officer shows up. I tell him what I had been through, and what does he say? Jail's a tough place. Don't trust Austin Police, because they are part of the conspiracy with Travis County law enforcement to cover up the fact that they abuse people. Don't trust them. Now, my second arrest, while I was under emotional duress, oh yeah, and here's the great thing. Whatever they did to me in Travis County, the humping on me and all of that stuff, I actually went online and almost hired an escort. Okay, like now I'm gay, and so that's just my identity, whatever. But I have I don't have a sexually active life. The last sexual experience I had was 8 years ago. That's just not something in my nature. I don't do sex. And for them to do to me whatever they did to me affected my subconscious so bad, I'm actually looking to go out and start paying for sex. And I didn't go through with it. I didn't hire anyone. Nothing happened. But I just realized, holy crap, they really got into my head somehow. And they're not taking responsibility. I informed the Texas Rangers about this in 2 letters in May of 2019 and again in June of 2019, and I didn't get anything back from them. So that's just telling me that Austin police are allowed to help Travis County conspire against people, and this is the scariest thing. I wasn't expecting there to be any charges or anything like that, but I did expect the Texas Rangers to go into that Travis County jail and say, you cannot have an L-shaped corridor by which you conspire against people to throw felonies against them. All that would be necessary would be cameras in those corridors, and then that wouldn't happen. But the Rangers apparently are okay with that kind of behavior and treatment of folks while they are in custody. December 2005 rolls along, and I am seeing another psychiatrist for the terrible anxiety issues I am struggling with while I am trying to earn a master's degree in quantitative and computational finance from the Georgia Institute of Technology. I withdrew from the number 1 ranked Masters of Taxation program in the United States a week after what Travis County law enforcement did to me. It obliterated my sense of ability to make it within the social order, so how the hell was I going to go to classes and try to actually understand graduate level tax applications? Do not trust Austin police. Do not trust Travis County law enforcement. If you are going to college in Travis County, you better watch out, because every member of law enforcement in that county can take you to Travis County Jail and put you down that L-shaped corridor, hit you with a felony, and destroy what future you thought you were going to have getting educated. Watch out. In December of 2005, I was driving actually to an appointment to see my psychiatrist. Now, this guy I did not like, but because I was so emotionally damaged, I just assumed things not going well was my fault. He had been chosen as 2005 Life Ruiner of the Year by the Georgia Association of Life Ruiners, or some crap like that. So I thought, well, I'm getting away from government-funded psychiatry, and I'm going into private enterprise psychiatry with someone who's done really, really well, apparently, because all the other life ruiners in Georgia thinks he deserves to be ranked #1 life ruiner in Georgia for the year of 2005. This guy puts me on so many pills, I rear-end people 3 times in a matter of 2 weeks. On one of them, I rear-end him, and I am having an anxiety attack. I can feel a seizure coming on, so I walk back to my apartment, and I take 2 1-milligram Klonopin. Now, leaving the scene of an accident gets you arrested. I understand that. What I don't understand is going into the back of that cop car, and after taking only 2 1-milligram Klonopin, going into a benzodiazepine blackout that lasts for a day and a half until I come out of it in Grady Hospital. And when I come out of it, I look down, and I'm bruised. I believe that I was assaulted while I was in custody of the Atlanta police and Fulton County deputies. I was in a benzodiazepine blackout, and maybe I mouthed off and they assaulted me, which is still not right. But my belief is that they then went to my apartment, found out what medications I was taking, took me to Grady Hospital, and said, to make sure we wipe out this guy's memory of what he went through, we saw that he was taking these other medications. So pump him full of more of this benzodiazepine, Klonopin, and I had been taking a prescription for Xanax before. I wasn't taking it anymore. But they might have seen that and said, we can also jack him up with this. So the benzodiazepines wipe out the memory. And then the anti-benzodiazepine, meant to take out that overdosing effect, also affects memory. So the only way, in my opinion, to find out whether or not something actually went sideways with how I was treated would be for those original medical records to be explored. Now, they would not have put in there that we injected him with additional benzodiazepines to jack up his benzodiazepine level in his blood. But if they look at that record, and I would want to know what benzodiazepine level was shown in my blood levels, because I believe that it was higher than just the 2 1-milligram Klonopin that I took at just around 9 a.m. in the morning. I believe that the Fulton County deputies assaulted me, causing that bruise. And when I'm at the hospital, there are 3 super friendly sheriff's deputies talking to me. How's it going? You doing okay? Hey, how'd you get that bruise? And I didn't remember. I still don't remember. I just know that I was bruised. But I was in a benzodiazepine blackout, and these 3 deputies were super friendly. The other deputies who had been watching the little psych ward, but in Grady Hospital, there are 2 psych wards for folks who were criminals who were under emotional duress. And there are 2 windows, and the other deputies who had been there wouldn't let me go to the bathroom next door. They're just rude. But these 3 were super, super nice to me. One of them even used his personal cell phone to call my parents and let me talk to them. And one of them even said, I remember this, we're taking good care of your boy. And when I spoke to my dad a few weeks later, he was like, what the hell did they do to you? Because my dad practiced law for, at that time, like 40 years. And so he was aware that law enforcement play people. So all I can say is do not trust Atlanta police, and you can't trust Fulton County deputies, and you can't trust Grady Hospital, because these 3 sheriffs, after I had told them, no, I don't remember, and they had been friendly, and they had gotten me food, and they let me call my parents, and they told my parents we're taking good care of your boy, they found the psychiatrist at Grady Hospital, pulled her early out of her rotation to speak to me, and that woman was intent on making sure I did not know how I got bruised. Do you remember how you got that bruise? No, I do not. So you do not remember how you got that bruise? No, I do not. The deputies wanted to make sure I didn't know how I was bruised, and then they pulled the doctor out of her scheduled rotation early to speak to me and make sure that her medical record reflects the fact that I said I did not remember how I was bruised. This is Grady Hospital working with Fulton County deputies after being taken under arrest by Atlanta police when you're under emotional duress. Watch out. Oh, and I've told the FBI, I told the Texas Rangers about what happened in Travis County. They've done nothing. The FBI has been informed of both of those situations. Nothing. The Office of the Inspector General that's supposed to oversee the FBI sent me a letter saying there's nothing going on here and we're going to destroy what you sent us. So I called the FBI in December of 2015 with corruption on what's going on in Starr County court systems. Now, the evidence I gave him is good. It's really good, solid evidence that makes the people who are involved, obviously, they committed fraud. They're dirty. And they never get in touch with me. That was December 2015. However, it was my belief that the FBI must have gotten in touch with the McAllen Police Department and said, this guy's good, he's trying to help us out. Because along this street in front of my office building in Atlanta, I suddenly noticed cop cars all the time. Like every 4 to 5 minutes, I swear, there was a McAllen Police Department car going down to Atlanta, and I felt so good. I thought to myself, cops are on my side, I've told the feds, and they've gotten in touch with McAllen Police and said, he's a good guy, keep an eye on him, we want to keep him safe. Okay, so I kind of messed that up. Because like a month later, I'm in Starbucks, and there's this gentleman who is like there's the police chief of like the McAllen Police Department, and then there's like folks right beneath him, and like so this guy is like on the level right beneath the police chief, and he's always been very cold and standoffish, but he's just law enforcement. So roughly a month after I call the feds, and I've noticed McAllen Police in front of Atlanta, and I'm thinking I'm safe, it's all good. I walk in. Now, I can't help but do an assessment of everyone who's in the room around me because I'm just nervous about what could possibly happen to me. But luckily, I've been able to shield it with my sort of bookkeeper dorkish, oh, what's going on in the world? La, 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 la. And so when I'm looking around at folks, it's usually, which is something that folks don't consider to be like, oh, he's something, he has ulterior motives, he's nasty. I'm just doing an assessment to find out what kind of risk I'm at with the people who are in that room with me. I happened to notice that senior member of McAllen Police sitting across from a dude in a green shirt. Now, this dude in the green shirt looks like law enforcement because he's got the super tight haircut. He just kind of has that look. I don't know for sure. But those two men look at me as I walk into Starbucks. And again, I'm doing my scan. I'm looking around. And I notice the senior member of the McAllen Police Department turn and look at his friend in the green polo shirt and do this. A nod, as if to say, that's the guy who has called the feds. That's how I interpreted it. I get my coffee, and I am standing at the Starbucks Sugar Island, preparing it for appropriate sweetness and creamerity. And I look up, and the dude in the green shirt is glaring at me. And we hold eye contact for a solid 2 seconds without blinking, because it's true in other parts of the world, but especially in South Texas, eye contact and the duration of eye contact and whether or not you are blinking and the angles of your eyelids communicate an extraordinary amount of information as to whether or not that person is going to cause you trouble. And so I was scared because I was like, oh, okay, someone in the McAllen Police Department, someone who's a fancy up there has now spread that I'm an FBI informant and now my life's at risk, so I'm scared. So what does my dumbass do? Call the FBI and say, you've told someone I'm an informant and now I think my life's at risk. And so apparently the FBI got back in touch with the McAllen Police Department because I didn't see any cars driving along in Atlanta, and I don't see them quite often since then. It's been about 5 years. And so, like, apparently I'm guessing is that, like, the FBI, like, when they tell someone this person's a confidential informant, that information is not supposed to be shared. And so, like, I don't know if that senior member of the McAllen Police Department who apparently shared that information, which made me, I believe, shared that information, which made me believe that my life was at risk, is in trouble. I don't know if there's something. I've heard of something called a sealed indictment. Maybe there's one of those for him. But anyway, apparently whatever happened angered the McAllen Police Department, because 1 month after this in February, it's roughly sometime between 10 and 10:30 at night, and I am walking from my office back